great book cover photography is able to tell a story without really telling a story. Today we're going to be talking all about visual storytelling for the purpose of book cover photography. There are other genres of photography like photojournalism or documentary photography that are all types of storytelling, but the difference here is that when you are working with book covers, you want to tell a story in the most minimalist way possible. These are skills that you're going to want to keep in mind when you're shooting for book covers. Hi, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to my channel. I like to talk about self-portraits, book covers, basically anything creative photography related that I do all by myself because I'm really introverted. I just like working alone. So the key to a great book cover is that you don't necessarily even realize why it's a great cover. A good book cover will speak directly to your subconscious and tell you what the story is about without you even knowing that it's doing its job. It might sound hard, but it's actually really simple. I'm going to talk about three things. First of all, one of the biggest factors in getting a message across to the person who looks at the cover is going to be the color choices of the cover. Every cover, every company, anything that's ever been branded has had to look at color psychology to really pull in the customers that they want, that suits their message, that suits their purpose. And so books are no different. They also lean on color psychology to get the job done. If you watched my video about different genres and book covers and different trends, and I told you to research by just looking at everything and taking note of repeating patterns in the genres. So you might have noticed that things like crime books have lots of red on them. Well, here's the part where you learn why. It's because of color psychology. Now, red can symbolize a lot of different things, and also the shade of red makes a difference as well. So you might want to take some time to get really nuanced onto the different shades of color, but really a bright red could be a symbol of danger. And so it fits well for a book that is maybe crime related. But red can also be symbolic of other things. So if you think about Valentine's Day, everything is red because red is also associated with things, with concepts like passion and love. So color alone is not the only thing that you can depend on to get your message across. You want to be specific and you want to be clear. Color is one way that you can narrow in on your message. So this is the first time that I'm giving you guys homework, but what I really want you to do is to write a list of colors, draw a line, and then on the other side of the paper, start writing down all the moods, impressions, concepts, and things that come to mind when you think of that color. This will give you a good idea of what color symbolism is resonating with you. But I don't want you to stop there because your idea about color might be different than kind of the universal understanding. So when you're done getting a good sense of how you feel about different colors, it's a good idea to go online and start researching color psychology. This advice kind of goes against what I was talking about in my editing video about color grading and how I said you should really stay away from doing too much color work on your images. And I still stand by that. However, you can set up a shoot or pick a certain element to be a color. And a lot of the times color is one of the things that can be changed relatively easily depending on the color in Photoshop. So if the designer really doesn't like the red shoes you chose, they could probably change it. So in my video talking about hiding and obscuring faces, I mentioned that last summer I had a broken glass door and that I took a lot of photos with that broken glass door. And the idea was to have some thriller covers. One of those images actually got licensed recently, and even though I didn't really do any color adjustments to it, I was sticking with the thriller theme by my expression and the broken glass, obviously. And the cover that got licensed for, they actually turned my entire face red because red fits well with that genre. It's really about balance, so please keep that in mind. Now this leads into the next topic that I want to talk about, and really that's pose and expression. Like I said, in that photo, I had like kind of a fierce look in my eye, and my expression was probably the thing that sold that image. My expression portrays a mood, portrays an emotion, gives an idea that there's something not right, maybe there's something wrong, injustice, anger. All of these things are brought through with the expression. Now they say most of communication is actually not verbal, that things like tone, body posture, and expressions and micro expressions, if you haven't read up on those, it's very fascinating. But all these things are subconscious cues that are communication and how we understand and interpret what other people are telling us. So pose and expression is a huge way to get through to somebody about what's going on in a book. Somebody standing there glaring straight into the camera is a totally different vibe than, say, somebody running away or glancing over their shoulder. That's more fear-based, whereas the other one was more confrontational. All these things are storytelling to the person that is glancing at your cover. I really love nuanced poses. So for example, if you think of an embrace, you would think like a loving, close relationship. However, if you have an embrace where maybe there's a woman standing and her partner is behind her and has his arm around her, and yet instead of just kind of naturally being like here, it's more like here, it gives a much more threatening tone to that pose. So even little adjustments can completely change the message. So this is my final category of things that I want you guys thinking about to have the most impact in your storytelling in a most minimal way, and that is symbolism. Symbols, one item, can mean so many different things to the viewer, and depending on how you portray that item in your image will take it even more in depth into a story. So for example, if I show you a crown, this crown could be symbolic of royalty. This could be symbolic of having lots of money. Basically, crowns could be fantasy book because there's lots of like princesses and stuff. All these things come to my mind when I see a crown. However, if I want to switch it up a little bit, first of all, just the crown on its own would have all those meanings. But if I put the crown on top of somebody and that person's like a portrait and it's looking directly at the camera, that has a totally different meaning than, say, a picture of somebody who's standing from the back and hiding the crown. This person obviously accepts their position of ruler or whatever, and they are not hiding it anyway, whereas a person that's maybe hiding it behind their back is maybe hiding who they are, and the book is all about how they're pretending to be maybe a normal person, but they're really a princess in disguise or something. It's a simple picture, but it tells the viewer so much about the book without over cluttering the book as well. You want to have room for the title and all that stuff. So if you're trying to cram in a crown and flowers, and maybe there's a cat in the story, and it's a love triangle, so there's two other people there, and you're trying to put all of these elements into one image, it's too much. And honestly, your cover is more likely to get glossed over because it doesn't have the punch that it needs to catch the eye. So what happens if you are not very good about thinking about symbols? When I started, I felt like I didn't really know anything about symbolism. I remember in high school having to talk about symbolism in English class and reading a book. I think it was Jane Eyre or something. And I needed to discuss the symbolism of a tree, and I had no freaking clue what was going on. I don't know, it's a tree. I mean, now, today, I could stand here and list all kinds of things about trees. I mean, the first one, of course, is just life and growth and strength and probably family. All these things kind of come into my mind just standing here thinking of a tree. But it might not come naturally to you. And so when I started, the thing that I turned to the most to get symbolism ideas, a dream interpretation book. This is literally just a dictionary of things that you could use. You open up the book, and it doesn't matter which one. This is just one of a million, and it's usually in alphabetical order, and it just lists things. So, for example, I'm just going to pick one of these A letters, and I've got acorn here, and it says seed of great potential within self. So if you're planning a shoot that is maybe about growth and potential, maybe there's a nature element, an acorn could be a really cool way to portray that. But also, if it takes place at a certain location where you would find acorns, then that would be even more specific way to allude to that setting. It's a great place to start, but it's not going to be everything. For example, when I look at blood, it says life force or energy. If you're bleeding, you're losing energy, someone's taking your energy, and you are worried, and you are fearful, and you lack balance. Yes, that's true, but on book covers it could be more specific, like there was a crime committed, somebody is actually bleeding. So there's going to be more than just what you find in a dream interpretation book. But if you are really lost and you don't even know where to get started, I highly recommend that you either pick one of these up. You can probably find it in a used bookstore because there's just so many of them. And I think it was really popular at one point to interpretate your dreams. But if you can't find one to pick up for cheap in real life, you can just go online and look up dream dictionaries, because there are different websites that have all this information as well. Your use of symbols can be mixed and matched a little bit. So you could have maybe two symbols put together that maybe don't necessarily go together, but when they do, it tells a different story. Or you can use a symbol to represent a relationship. So for example, if I wanted to represent people and I didn't have models to work with, what I could do is I could find shoes that would be in the style that I think that those people would wear. So if I wanted to demonstrate maybe a single mom that has children, I would have like larger adult style women's shoes, and then I would have a pair or two of children's shoes along with the adult women's shoes. But symbolism is more than just what you show, it's also what's not there. So if I was going to do that, another thing that I could do is set it up so that there is an empty space where maybe the dad's shoes would go. And that would be a really powerful way to drive home the idea that this book is about a single mom. The state of the symbol can also really tell so much more about the story. So for example, like I was talking about the single mom and the shoes, if all those shoes were worn and tattered, that would give a sense that that family is living in poverty. But if they were really super fancy and high polished, you would have an idea that that is a family that is coming from money. All these concepts can be applied to all symbols. So a tree that's growing and flourishing could be life. A tree that's been chopped down or damaged or struck by lightning tells another story. Things like broken picture frames, a tipped over chair, an abandoned teddy bear, open window, spilt drink. All of these things are much more specific when you change their natural state. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. I'll either get to them directly or answer them in a future book cover photography video. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you know when I release a new video. It really helps my channel grow and lets YouTube know that this content is valuable. I'm trying to make it valuable. So if you got any value out of it, also hit the like. I hope that this video helped you figure out ways that you can pull together these simple elements and start telling a really powerful story in your images. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching.